Professor at Universiti Utara, Malaysia, Mr. Ruzinoor, PhD, Head of the Research Center for Social and Cultural Studies, Universitas Syiah, Kuala, Mr. Alfi Rahman, PhD, Lecturer at Department of Communications, Universitas Islam Indonesia, Dr. Herman Felani, SSMA, the Moderator, Mr. Rafika, Dhona, and to the Dean Lecturers from Universiti Utara, Malaysia, Universitas Syiah, Kuala, Universitas Islam Indonesia, and other partner universities. Lastly, to all distinguished participants. On this special occasion, let us offer our praise and gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, for it is with His mercy and blessing that we are able to gather in this room to attend annual workshop on Globalization 2021, Disaster, Media, and Globalization. Without further ado, let us begin this event by saying Basmalah all together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished participants, firstly, we are going to listen to the reading the Holy Quran by Ibrahim Shauki, who is students batch 2019. He will recite the Al-Hujurat Surah from 10 to 13. Shauki, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
A'udzu billahi minasy syaithanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Innamal mu'minuna ikhwatun fa aslihu baina akhawaykum واتقوا الله لعلكم ترحمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم ولا نساء من نساء عسى أن يكن خيرا منهن ولا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب بئس الاسم الفسوق بعد الإيمان ومن لم يتب فأولئك هم الظالمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم ولا تجسسوا ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه واتقوا الله إن الله تواب رحيم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير صدق الله العظيم اللهم ارحمنا بالقرآن ثم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, Shauki. Before we are going to listen to the welcoming remarks, I would like to mention that this workshop is a mandatory for every student of the International Program of Communication Universitas Islam Indonesia, and it is conducted annually with the aim of providing the knowledge and preparing the students to be ready to face and engage to the globalization era. Other than that, this program is also open for public and for other partner universities. Now we are going to listen to the welcoming remarks by the Deputy Dean for Religious Affairs, Student Affairs, and alumni of Faculty of Psychology and Sociocultural Science, Universitas Islam Indonesia. I would like now to invite Dr. Felani Zulaifah, MSc.
Thank you, Mbak Jenny. To all, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Honorable speakers for today, we'd like to thank you all for making this happen. Let me begin this opening speech by sending my heartfelt prayer that all of us remain safe and in good health, and that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala blesses us all for our effort in trying to make betterment for the condition of the Ummah. Amin, inshallah. I learned yesterday upon opening the invitation letter for opening this workshop that in fact this activity is a realization of the joint collaboration between Ilmu Komunikasi Universitas Islam Indonesia and the School of Multimedia Technology and Communication from Universiti Utara, Malaysia. So on behalf of our Dean in this opportunity, I'd like to express thanks and hope also that there will be many productive initiatives for many years to come. We do share a lot in common, such as similarity in our culture and language. Also, we shared a historical connection as people of the Malay And of course, most importantly, we share responsibility to take good care of the Ummah. And hopefully, by working together, inshallah, this will help us to do this responsibility better, inshallah. It is interesting that today the topic that both are taking is about disaster, media, and globalization. It's such an interesting topic. In this regard, I'd like to say two things. The way we understand disaster has also developed, in fact, yeah. In the past, we know too well the category of disasters such as man-made and natural disaster. But these days, a different understanding also come to the front, such as what we are facing is in fact not the natural disaster itself, but all this time through human civilization and history, we're facing what we call natural hazard. The problem with us, in running our life is that very often we are ignorant to the fact that there is natural hazard. And because we continue to live the way we want to live by putting aside the fact that there is natural hazard, then comes the disaster. Okay, it's interesting. Yeah. And so maybe it's our task today to get people, the mass, to understand that natural hazard is there, and we have lived all through the tested by times, and very often us as humans really don't take that seriously enough. Yeah, and it leads away to disaster. The second, the definition of disaster can always be expanded in an Islamic view here to include the various relations pertinent to us as living human. As Muslims, we're entitled to take care of 5 built-in relationships in what I have understood so far. These relationships did not recognize time, because it was there in the history of the civilization. It is here with us today, and it will always be with the next generation that follow after us. Yeah, these 5 relationships were, it deals with our connection with God, nature, ourselves, with others, and with our material or man-made surrounding. So 5 of them: God, nature, ourselves, social relationship, and then the last is with the material and man-made surroundings. In this relationship with all the 5 elements lies the responsibility that we cannot just ignore, as we will be held accountable before God for that. We, for example, I'd like to give a little bit of detail on this relationship. With the relationship with God, we have the responsibility to be grateful, and that is why we do our ibadah, to be thankful to God, to worship Him. And with nature, we have the responsibility to take care, to manage at the best way we can. And in Arabic, this is called imara. And with ourselves, we have this responsibility to train, to get ourselves to learn, to make mistakes and to do correction so that we can grow from that. And we are hoping that through this all, then what we are going to achieve is the integrity of ourselves. With others, we are responsible to develop collaborative relationship, extending compassion, exchanging roles, and to coexist. With material things, our role is to use it, as tool at the best way we can, and not to be not to get manipulated by it. So material is material that we can use, but the relationship wouldn't be that it becomes our master. The relationship make us understand. Those relationships make us understand that disaster, in fact, can start from the very person or the individual himself or herself. When we lost the perspective of our relationship with the 5 relationships that I already mentioned, then it got us disintegrated. That is the beginning of a disaster. Then human found it hard to understand themselves. Because all the relationships are not well taken care of. Disaster can also show up in our social reality. The presence of injustice, racism, inflicted division, oppression. We can witness all of this nowadays in the world very easily. And it's so sad that it still happened. In this earth, during the modern time, postmodern time like this. Well, let's hope that the media works, from UII and from UUM will stand to help the Ummah in facing those problematic relationships. Now it is our task to think of what we can offer to humanities. And for this, I would like to refer to our Muslim scholar, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, who said that Islam can always offer to humanity the following things: justice, mercy, wisdom, and common good. Fight for justice without the other 3, it will be imbalanced, still chaotic. And it's not possible only to give mercy without we are promoting for justice. And without wisdom, we will not be able to empathize to others and see the difficult context that people are facing, etc. And common good, maslahah, of course, is the ideal goal of every Muslim. I hope this principle will color the works of our experts from Universitas Islam Indonesia and from Universiti Utara, Malaysia. I think those are all that I would like to say in regard of the topic of the workshop today. And last thing I want to say is that I hope you have meaningful workshop together. And
Bu Emi, we also have Universitas Syiah Kuala, actually, Dr. Alfi here.
Mashallah, Syiah Kuala
for collaboration.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so it's included in the collaboration of the
Thank you.
That's even better. The more the better. So really work together for the betterment of the condition today. If you see the condition of the ummah, kita semua concern and prihatin. Okay, have a meaningful workshop sessions together, and I hope to see more productive collaboration between the 3 universities, inshallah, the 3 faculties, inshallah. Thank you very much, and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh. Thank you, Amy, for the beautiful speech. Distinguished participants, now I would like to remind to all of you to not forget to fill the attendance form of this workshop that we already shared on the Zoom chat, because we are going to share to you all the e-certificate easily later on. And please fill out the form with your correct email address and the correct phone number. Okay, now we are continuing to the main event of this workshop, but before that, I would like to introduce to the moderator for today, Mr. Rafika Dhona, SECOM MA, Lecturer of Communications Department, Universitas Islam Indonesia, whose interest study is in Geography, Space, and Media Studies. Mr. Holly, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Jenny. Honorable Vice Dean for Religious Student and Alumni Affairs, Faculty of Psychology and Sociocultural Science, Universitas Islam Indonesia, Dr. Felani Zulfah, MSc, Psikolog. Respectable all speakers for this annual workshop on globalization, Dr. Herman Felani, Dr. Ruzinoor, and Dr. Alfi Rahman, and honorable all participants. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please have a nice seat and enjoy this workshop. First of all, I want to thank you for preparing yourself to join this meeting. Thanks for the host, Syiah, to let me be moderator in this workshop. I am Holy Rafika Dhona. I will be the moderator for this very interesting discussion. I'm very pleased to see you here and welcome all of you to annual workshop on globalization. As we all know, we are still facing the COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic is probably a kind of disaster for all of us. This pandemic has a global scale. It requires collaboration between us on a global scale as well. For the purpose of this collaboration, we need a media that connect us who are far from each other. From this reason, learning about disasters, media, and globalization is very important for us. It perhaps become a kind of our optimism in dealing with this pandemic. So we are very pleased as there are 3 speakers want to share with us about the problem that we're dealing. Our first speaker is Mr. Alfi Rahman, PhD. He is lecturer at the Faculty of Social and Political Science of Syiah, Kuala University. He also appointed as a director of Research Center for Social and Cultural Studies, Syiah, Kuala University, and researcher at Tsunami and Disaster Mitigation Research Center, TDMRC of Syiah, Kuala University. He has received his master's degree in disaster science at Syiah, Kuala University and took his doctoral degree in human security and society, Graduate School of International Cultural Studies, Tohoku University, Japan. He will deliver a presentation under the title Introduction of Disaster Risk Communication. Here is also Dr. Herman Felani. Dr. Herman will speak about pandemic and globalization. He is a lecturer of Communication Science Department, Universitas Islam Indonesia, Yogyakarta. Dr. Herman has a lot of experiences in global mobility as he managed a lot of international cooperations in UII International Affairs Office. He received his master degree in American Studies, Graduate School, Universitas Gadjah Mada, UGM, and took his doctoral in American Studies at the same campus. Our third speaker is Mr. Ruzinoor, PhD. He now is an associate professor at the School of Creative Industry Management and Performing Art, Universiti Utara, Malaysia, UUM. He obtained his MSc in Computer Graphic and Virtual Environment from University of Hull, United Kingdom. He is awarded with his PhD degree in GIS and Geometric Engineering from Universiti Putra Malaysia, UPM, in the area of multimedia GIS. In this occasion, he will talk about 3D simulation for flood evacuation. Before the presentation begin, let me inform how the presentation will be going on. First, our speaker will be invited to present the material. Each speaker will be given 30 minutes to present. It is very short time, I think, but don't worry. After the presentation, there will be question and answer session and followed by conclusion. Now, allow me to welcome the first speaker, Dr. Alfi Rahman, to deliver his presentation. Dr. Alfi Rahman, the time and the screen is yours.
Okay, can you hear me clearly? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Holly. Can I share my presentation? I could not share my presentation. Maybe someone can give me an access.
You can, doctor, or do you?
Okay, I'm okay now. Good. Okay, can you see my presentations now?
Yes, clear.
Okay, thank you very much. For today, I'm very happy to have the opportunity to deliver my presentations about the disaster, especially for introduction of disaster risk communications. And yeah, I'm very glad. I want to extend my gratitude for Universitas Islam Indonesia, who also invite me for today. And of course, this is a big opportunity for me to discuss about the disaster. So this topic of also one of the quick interested, especially when we talk about Syiah Kuala University or Universitas Syiah Kuala, who affected by mega disaster from the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. So 2 years after the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, our university initiated to establish one of the international research center that what we call it tsunami and disaster mitigation research center to collect all of the knowledge from the field, what the impact from the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. So from this time, and also our university want to extend our experience with the what we call it one of mega disaster in this century, because that's even more than 250,000 people killed and missing. So this one big impact for us. Because my expertise in communication, I also want to share with you and discuss with all of the audience about the perspective of risk communication, why risk communication is really important when we talk about disaster. Dr. Amy already mentions about, as a Muslim, we also have a kind of perspective how we try to understand about disaster. Maybe it's quite different with what understands by other people around the world or non-Muslims community. So this also one of the interesting topic that we can discuss. But for today, I want to introduce the basic concept of disaster risk communication and also introduce practical aspect of disaster risk communication and also challenges and issues in disaster risk communication. So one of the practical aspect of disaster risk communication that I want to deliver for today is one of our research that has been conducted since 2016, 2017 in one of islands, in Simalu Islands. Simalu Islands is one of the islands, one of the district which located in the western part of Aceh province, that they have indigenous knowledge, indigenous knowledge related to the tsunami. And this kind of knowledge successful alarmed people and saved lives during the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. So even though I told about the local context, but we can see in the global perspective, since Indonesia is one of the big archipelagic country, the local context is also really important, since we also still struggling to develop our approach, especially when we try to modern disaster reductions program approaches. But in the context of Indonesia, we still have so many local practices, indigenous knowledge, how try to deal with the kind of the disaster. So I want to also explain a little bit about this piece of lesson learned from the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami from indigenous knowledge perspective. So the expected output from this topic, I hope the participant could understand disaster risk communication concept and its practical aspect, and also participants are able to demonstrate relevant disaster risk communication strategies according to the context. So this is a very basic definition about the communication, and I think international program in communications exactly know or understands well about what is the definition of communication. So the communication is defined as any information related to behavior, how we try to react, how we try to act and to extract. This is a kind of the information that can share to another people. and also a sharing of ideas and feelings in a mode of mutuality. I think this is, we can skip it because I know you already know this is clearly. So maybe we can discuss, because already mentioned by Holly that we have a limited time when maybe we can discuss it after that. So I can skip it. So this is the definition, one of the model, Aristotle's communications model, with the simple simple flow, that the communication is a flow of message from the speaker to the listener. And this is another model, Shannon and Weffer's communications model. Yeah, this is also, so we can skip it. This is very basic, and I know most of the audience already know about this concept. And now I want to give you a perspective, because when the communications can, we put in the risk context, so we can talk about the risk itself. In the context of disaster management, risk is a kind of we can formulate it interactions between hazard and vulnerability, and we can cope it by increasing the capacity. So this is a kind of the basic concept when we talk about risk. And now we are having one of the international platform for disaster reduction, what we call it Sendai Framework for Disaster Reductions 2015 until 2030, which this kind of international framework adapted by more than 80 countries as a platform, international global platform for disaster reduction. And the first strategy introduced by this platform, how to understand risk, how to make the risk will be understood by people. And one of the channel that can be delivered about this understanding about the risk is risk communication. So important of risk communication is inform people to make sound choice about risk. So empowers audience to make informed decisions making. What happened after when the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami occurred? Most of people told, based on our previous research, they did not know what actually happened because they have no idea, they have no knowledge. The number 250,000 people killed at that time, it's attributed to the less of knowledge about the tsunami, about the disaster. So because they did not know about the disaster, they did not know how to evacuate themselves. Yeah, so risk communication empowers audience to make informed decisions making. And also the importance of risk communication increase trust in risk management institution. And as we know as well, the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami as a milestone for Indonesia, to have more comprehensive disaster management by release, what we call it Undang-Undang Nomor 24 Tahun 2007, this is a new paradigm for Indonesia in the context how we try to manage disasters. And after that, we know BNPB, Badan Nasional Penanggulangan Bencana, and then in province level, we have a disaster management agency in every province level, what we call it BPBD, and also we have now BPBD in district level. So which means that this institution should be trusted by audience. So when we talk about the risk communication, empowers audience to make informed decisions by make a strong management institution itself. For example, what happened after the 2018 Palu tsunami earthquake, and also liquefactions, we know that BMKG released the potential of the tsunami, and then after that, suddenly withdrawn about the potential tsunami, and the tsunami actually happened there, but it worse than what we imagined. not only earthquake and also tsunami, but also liquefaction. I went there at the end of July, at the end of July for my research in Palu. I found that's very, very. I can imagine about what happened in the 2018. So this is also one of a situation should be considered about trust. How we trust the message that delivered by the management institutions, and then help build understanding for effort to manage risks. That's also we need to know. For examples, Dr. Amy mentions about United Nations disaster reductions try to promote there is no natural disaster, but disasters caused by the natural hazard. Because the fail for us to adapt with that event, that's kind of make a disaster. But if we know how to manage the disaster, so it's not would be called as a disaster because we can handle it, we can adapt with that's kind of the situation. So we try to make it more real, and also we want to make our community to be more resilient to face any kind of that potential disaster. So potential disaster risk, not to be a disaster. Okay. And then tailor communication, so it takes into account the emotional response to an event. So this is one of the important things. I think Dr. Amy also concerned about the impact of the disaster, especially mega disaster, especially when we fail to understand about the situations. We found many impact in the mental health after the disaster should be also noted, should be also considered by us when we try to recover from the disaster. And one of the important of risk communication also assess that's kind of part, and also prevent negative behavior and encourage constructive responses to crisis or danger. So when we talk about risk communications, risk communication try to connect between risk management that we have BNPB, BPBD. Most of these kind of institutions based on the policy base, and then risk assessment, scientific base, we try to make a kind of the research activities, try to understand about the people, but the result of research stand alone. We need to communicate to people. We need to communicate it with the stakeholders. So I think disaster risk communication, one of the functions of disaster risk communication in this era. So this figure tell us about the interrelationship between disaster risk communication and risk assessment and risk management. So the definition of risk communication, just like I tried to quote two, about definition and open to an exchange of information and opinion about risk, leading to better understanding and better risk management. And also risk communication defined as process of exchanging information among interested parties about the nature, magnitude, significance, or control of risk. So this is also the definition of risk communication in this context. So this is about, sometimes we a little bit confused how to distinguish between risk communication and crisis communication. When we talk about risk communication, we will talk about even that is the focus of the communication is in the future, so risk-centered. But when crisis, it's a little bit different because maybe the event already occurring, in front of us. That's kind of the crisis. So when we talk about the crisis, which means that maybe we will talk about risk itself, risk-centered, maybe it potential to occur in the future. So this is only to show to the audience about the difference between risk communication and crisis communications. For example, ongoing process between communicator and audience is time consuming. We will takes times long. If we talk about the crisis, it's very sort of process between organization and audience, yeah, due to the immediacy of the crisis of event. So this is only, I can skip it, yeah, maybe. So this is one of the practical example how the risk communication is really important, especially the context of Indonesia, as I mentioned earlier. How communication experience from small story in saving life during the 2000 tsunami. So the Sumulu Islands is located in the western part of Aceh province. Yeah, we can reach these islands from Banda Aceh directly with a small plan, and or from Sumatra Utara or Medan. We have a little big plan, ATR, yeah, ATR. I forget the name of the type of the plant, but I think, or maybe we can reach from Melabu to by ship. Actually, these islands experience some of earthquakes and tsunamis. So the earthquake magnitude 7.6, for example, hit Sumulu Island on Friday, January 4, 1907, and developed the tsunami. Some of informations tell about more than 50%. Yeah, some estimators go up to 70% of the Sumuluans people were killed at the times. Yeah, that's a big, a worse, a dark history in Sumulu. Yeah, I also tried to find someone who experienced 1907 when I conducted my research in Sumulu Islands 2016. Unfortunately, I didn't find any person who experienced the 1907 tsunami. But I found, some of the interviewees who get the information what actually happened in 1907. So which means it's the second generation. And then after that's because 50% and 70% of Sumulu Islands were killed at the times. So it's a kind of the sadness, a big sadness to the community. Yeah, and then they try to deal with this sadness, and then the Sumuluans people try to create a history of the small. Yeah. But I assume that the small story already developed before, but the development of the small story maybe it will be different. I need to do research more in this kind period of time. And then what happened in 2004? The earthquake of magnitude 9.2. Yeah. December 26, 2004, developed tsunami as well. Only 3 people were killed, yeah, showing the positive impact the small story as warning signal. I hope we try to disseminate the small to the community because they know exactly what should they do. Well, as mentioned, the importance of the risk communication, I already mentioned in the previous slide. Yeah. One of the important to make audience or to help audience to make an appropriate decision and actions. So this is one of the important of the risk communication. And then this is very important. How could the small story be linked to the people who did not experience the 2004 tsunami and community strategy in Menjing tsunami? This is post the 2004. So this is Aceh province that I can describe. This is the islands. This is the capital city of Aceh province, Banda Aceh. So we can reach these islands from Banda Aceh to Sumulu Islands by flight, and also we have another flight from Sumatra Utara, Kuala Namu Airport to Lasikin Airport in Sumulu. So this is the map of the Sumulu Islands. Okay. So I I got this picture from one of the research conducted by another college from Syiah University from TDMRC about the coastal cave. The coastal cave recorded the ancient tsunami that hit Aceh for many times. So which means that the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami is not the first tsunami hit the Aceh coastal area, but there were another tsunami before. So which means that the probability for us to experience the tsunami in the future is also very very high. Yeah, which means so we need to prepare. So this is the Smulu Islands, as you can see. So okay, sorry. This is the Smulu Islands, and this is the rapture from the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, and this is from 1907. The green color. And this is the map of Smulu Islands. Actually, there are three local languages which rooted in the Smulu Islands. The people who are living in the a certain part of islands, they are using a Defiant language as the daily communications. And the people of Smulu Island who are living in the northern part of the islands, they speak Sigulai, and only 2 villages they speak Lekon. So which means the Smong story is itself really derived from the Defiant language. Yeah. So Defiant language is more powerful if compared to another local language in Smulu Islands, because the Smong story itself delivered in Defiant language, and also Sigulai language. So this is some story about the Smulu, about the Smong. Actually, the Smong story is a kind of the oral story delivered by the adults to the youngest persons. The Smong story tells about what happened in 1907. Okay, the 1907 situation. So I interviewed some of people. They told about what happened in 1907. But again, this is the second generation of the Smong. I call it the second generations because actually they did not experience 1907 tsunami, but they got the information about 1907 from the person who experienced the 1907 tsunami. So they told about the phenomena, and they call this is a Smong. So what should we do when we experience the same situation as well? If there a big earthquake and receding of seawater, which means the Smong will occur. So what should we do? We should run away from the coastal or the higher places. So this is another example of the Smong story and tsunami risk from Nafi Nafi. Nafi Nafi is what I mentioned about the overall traditional channels, yeah, in Small Islands. So this is the message, and this is the knowledge. So this is tells about what happened in 1907, and this is what should we do when we observe the same situations. For example, big earthquake, and then we need to observe if there any changing of sea level, sea level rise, the sea level, and then if we found that the receding of sea level, we should go or run away from the coastal. When the big earthquake occur, yes, okay, sorry. Immediately observe the changing of seawater level and the beach. At the beach or the river, if you find the water receding, please be in a hurry to run away from the beach. And also please bring rice, sugar, light knife, matches, and clothes. Please remember this story and pass it to the next generations. Tsunami itself is from it's a word from Japan, su, which means that port, and nami is wave. I think su, port, and wave sometimes very confused, but tsunami is now retrieved as the word to describe about the phenomena. Okay, the phenomena. But the Smong itself is tell about all of the phenomena and what should we do. Yeah, what should we do? Not only run away from the coastal, but also what kind of the items that we can bring with us, because we will stay in the temporal places. Yeah. So I think if compare the word of the tsunami and the smog, maybe the smog will be more comprehensively to describe about the phenomena. But this is also one of the challenge for us, especially for this million people, to promote about the smog word as a word of tsunami recognized by Indonesians, yeah, as tsunami as well. But this still in my imagination is not real. But I think Kamus Besar Bahasa Indonesia already recognized smog as one of it to describe about the tsunami, yeah, and in 2005, United Nations International Strategy for Disaster Reduction, or UNISDR, awarded Smulans people with Sasakawa Award. Sasakawa is a recognition for their indigenous knowledge, their culture, saved lives during the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. So I think international also honored about how the Smulans people can escape from the mega disaster like the 2004 Indonesian tsunami. So this is a kind of summary about the small story that related to disaster reduction of Nafi. Tsunami phenomena, action should be taken if seeing the phenomena and also transmit through generation. So I think this is a very, very strong message, yeah, in the context of disaster risk communication. Because our community, our people, they need a very simple context that they know what should they do when the situation occur. So, for example, the tsunami phenomena, big earthquake, receding seawater is the land, and then what should we do? Yeah, well, if we see the phenomena, run away from the coastal area or flee to the higher place, and also ask people to save their lives and also bring some items for staying in the temporary place. Yeah. And the most important thing from the small story is transmit through generations, which means that from 1907 until 2004, it almost 100 years. So I think a new generation changed, the environment changed, but from this, the lesson learned from the small story, the message is very strong, and it works well. Yeah, it worked well in the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. So this is very amazing for me. Why? And then what happened in 1907, and then still applicable in the 2004. So this is also, yeah, after the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, the local community tried to adapt our using another traditional channels that they call it Nandong. So this is also important in the context of risk communication. We need to find, another channels to communicate risk to the people. Nandong is a kind sing, yeah, maybe by using things, to deliver a message of the small. That's also really really good and really practice. This is some of physical evidences when I conducted my research in Smulu Islands. So as you can see, the uplift in the northern part of islands caused by the 2004 Indonesian tsunami. And also this is one of really important site. As you can see, this oldest mosque, in Smulu Island, the Babu Salihin Mosque in Salur village, affected by 1907 and also 2004 Indonesian tsunami. So I think this is also the most important site, as disaster education's purpose. But as the myths still exist there. Yeah.
Sorry, Dr. Alfi.
Yeah.
Sorry. We have 5 minutes left. Sorry.
This is maybe two left slides that I want to present. Okay, this is typical of myth, that misconception about the small. So the misconception is one of the big challenge for indigenous in the context of disastrous communications. Yeah. The smog is manifesting of people's sin and the angry of God, and then the smog will occur again in 100 years. Before the smog occurs, it should be very hot, and others. So as a Muslim scholar, we need to verify, and we need to put it in the context of disaster, and this is one of another big challenge. So this is what I want to give you one of the history of the Hmong. As you can see, this is 1907, and also this is 2004. So I recorded there were at least 3 big earthquakes during this period in 1935 and also 1941 and 2002. This is a kind of the drill for the Smolens people to test their kind of Hmong. Yeah. Fortunately, in the 2002, there were big earthquake occurred there, 7.3 magnitude, but they tried to observe the changing of sea level. They did not find any changing of sea level. So I think that's really, really good, because it's a kind of test, the opportunity for the Smolens people to test the Hmongs, because it's developed from 1907. The generation already changed, and then when the 2004 earthquake occurred, 9.2, it's give the opportunity for people to observe of the changing of sea level, and then they found that the seawater was receding, and then suddenly the Hmong would fulfill of the Smolens Islands air, and then they ran away from the coastal, and that's very amazing. Only 3 people were reportedly killed at the times. So this also to describe about some of we need also not traditionally led Hmong story to be developed in the future, because we are now have the generation who did not experience the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, which significant numbers in our community. So I think this is also one of the big challenges for our community to be consider about that kind of the situation, whether they have a good knowledge as their ancestors, in Small Island, the context of Small Island. So this is the conclusion. The story of Hmong has been passed on through the generation via different medias. The Hmong story content provide valuable disastrous messages by describing the stages of natural phenomena. It also includes interaction for escaping and encourage people to act, which can save lives. And the most important thing that the Hmong story could be integrated to strengthen the community resilience by linking the transforming the lesson learned from the Hmong story to the disaster reduction communication approach. And I want to close my presentations by giving you one of an old African proverb: when a knowledgeable or person dies, a hell library is appears. So this is seems that as a researcher, I need to hurry to capture about the knowledge that already embedded in this kind of guys picture. Some of them already passed away. I try my best to capture the knowledge from them. This is, I think, the represent for Indonesian's context. So we need to capture the knowledge in our community, and then and of course, in the context of globalizations, we need to also consider about the changes of the society, new technology. We call it Revolution Industry 4.0, and others. And I think that's all what I want to deliver for today. Thank you very much, Mr. Holly, and I hope it might have some time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alfi Rahman, for giving us such informative and inspiring presentation about Hmong. Now let us invite Dr. Herman Felani to deliver his speech. Dr. Herman, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Mas Holly, Matur nuwun, and arigato gozaimasu, Sensei Alfi, for sharing your great story. And I really enjoy your story, because your presentation, because this is in fact that local culture can save the planet, can save the global community. And I think it's very important for us to learn the local culture. Don't forget the roots, because of the very strong influence of the globalizations, we sometimes forget the local culture. I have around 30 minutes, right, Mas Holly, for my presentation. Okay, I already share my screen. Can you see my screen already? So Dr. Alfi and Dr. Ruzinoor are wearing a global suit, and they're wearing the suit, and Masoli and I are wearing batik, local local fashions. But I'm going to talk about more about Dr. Alfi is talking about the local knowledge in what is it, risk communication, but I will talk more about pandemics, globalization, and popular culture, especially films. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, so so first I want to thank the committee for having me here as one of the panelists to share about disaster, media, and globalizations. Okay. So first of all, maybe if we read again, or we remember again what Fukuyama said in 1980s, in the end of 1980s, after the fall of the Soviet Union, USSR at the time, he called it, he made a thesis called "The End of the History." So he say that what we may be witnessing is not the end of the Cold War, but the end of history as such. That is the endpoint of man's ideological evolution and the universalization of Western liberal democracy. Okay, Fukuyama was very confident when he mentioned this, and he really believed that globalization is the future, and I think he is supported by many other scholars like Omai, who also theorized about the borderless world. Okay, so but what happened is actually the opposite. Okay, Chomsky, actually one of the scholars who disagree with Fukuyama, he said that the end of history has been proclaimed many times, but it is always falsely stated. So is it true that globalization is the future of the humankind? Based on some literature research that I did, this is part of my research actually about nationalism. Actually, nationalism is as mostly seen as the antithesis of globalization, or people would say that, oh, nationalism will die and it will be replaced by globalizations. But, and people always say that, you know, some scholars, for example, Calhoun, say that nationalism is past actually, and it is only, you know, become a center of attraction when there is conflicts between nations. And even from the Marxism point of view, they say that the future will be nationless, as well as classless and religionless. I think it reminds you to some popular culture, like the song from John Lennon, right? Imagine. And Harari, I think he's a very, he's a celebrity too, a very famous author too. If you have read the books like Sapiens, for example, he say that the future of the world is a globalized empire ruled by elites from multiple ethnicities. Very interesting, because many scholars believe globalization is the future, and we say goodbye to the to the nationalism. But actually, nationalism is actually strengthening, and this is one of the caricature that I found side by side with the writing from Fukuyama, The End of History, and then after the WTC attack, 9/11, history continued. So the ideology, the rise of ideology, and Huntington actually said it's the class of the civilizations, and it's true. Right before the pandemics, especially maybe let's see like 3 years back, you know, in the when the Trump's elections happens, you know, neo-nationalism, or we call it populisms, becomes very what is it? Become like a mainstream in many countries. Like, you know, the movement of the Trump supporter with "Make America Great Again," and which is opposing face to face with some other movement like Black Lives Matter. Okay, so what is the connections of the pandemics and the globalizations? So the fact some scholars actually observe that actually pandemics, as if we can call it as an example of a disaster, it is actually become the threat to globalizations. Even new nationalisms is triggered by the global pandemic outbreak. Legrain, for example, say that actually the COVID-19 outbreak becomes a gift for the nativist nationalists, okay, especially those who are using the ultra-nationalist ideology to promote xenophobia and also some discriminative policy, for example. And protectionists who restricted the movement of people and goods in the form of travel bans, visa restriction, and export and import restriction, which could ultimately lead to the death of globalization. So disaster, especially pandemics, is actually seen as a threat to the globalizations, and it becomes one of the trigger that strengthen the nationalist movement, especially the ultra-nationalists, that is more discriminative, and sometimes it is more, we call it, exclusive nationalism. And one of the example, for example, some leaders, they make policies to protect their countries and set aside international interests. Okay, so I don't care with your country, but I will pay attention to my country first. And even some scholars worry that the worst impact of the epidemic of the pandemic is actually the loss of international philanthropy. It is very interesting. Maybe we can cross-check with Dr. Alfi that actually during the disaster like tsunami, for example, in Aceh at that time, we have so many international community coming and helping each other hand to hand. But it's different story with the pandemics. In the pandemics, people lock down, they close their borders, close their country, and they provide the vaccines, for example, for the country, their national stock first, and then after that, maybe they'll think about helping their neighbor. And it's very interesting that even in some other positive side, actually, COVID-19 pandemic also can lead to a new form of patriotism. In this case, this is a more positive nationalism ideology, which is actually being patriotic, like especially the healthcare workers who sacrifice themselves to provide service for the community. And if you know Nigel Farage, one of the main leader of the Brexit, for example, the one who lead the United Kingdom or the Britain to exit from EU, say that actually now we are all nationalists. That's what he said. Okay, so from this global and geopolitical situation, we can understand that actually this is not the end of the history yet, because the countries now trying to strengthen their national policies and their nationals interest, which is sometimes against humanity and the principle of human rights, because it's sometimes discriminative. But our idea that we are actually in one planet and we are in one home, it's again recolored again with the flags of nations. And some research actually said even before the pandemics, actually the nationalist movement or the populisms, the right-wing nationalist populisms rise throughout the Western world. And Donald Trump become like the icon, one of the icon. For example, one of a research center in United States, they report that there were around 260 hate crimes in the days after the Trump's election. And there are more than 700 incidents, especially with the discourse of anti-immigrants. So this is one of the meme made in social media, say that, okay, this is the return of the nation state. And interestingly, it the threat to the globalisms or globalizations, or we're thinking as a global citizens or more cosmopolitan status is actually being challenged. For example, with some of the leaders who show some xenophobic, discriminative, and also a very ultra-nationalist ideology. Okay, it happens not only to United States, but also to some other leaders like Marine Le Pen in France, and then the Prime Minister of Hungary, and then Boris Johnson, the leader of the Brexit, who then became the Prime Minister, and Xi Jinping in China, and some other leaders. So I will focus, after this, I'll focus more on the how do we see the nationalisms, the ultra or populism or white in America. They call themselves also as white nationalists. Okay, if you see the cap, this is a very popular. Can somebody maybe type in the chat box what is written on the cap, on this red cap, and who is this guy in the red cap? Okay, I will see it in the chat box. I want to know whether the participants are sleeping or not. Right, Masoli? We can do that, right? Okay, I'm still waiting. Nobody is writing on the chat. So who is the guy? Who is this guy, and what is written on his baseball cap here? Nobody knows? Okay, maybe the first person to guess it right, we should give a gift. Mbak Ida, if we have any. Okay, I saw something. A celebrity. Okay, Mr. Moderator is correct. It's Donald Trump. Yeah, Nafisa, you're right. It's Donald Trump. Yeah, Edgar, you're right. You said Trump. But what's written on the cap? I said, I give the question actually. Who is this guy and what is written on the cap? Okay, I give you the clue. It's an acronym is MAGA. Okay, yeah, Safa, you're right. Maybe we should give the gift to Safa, you know. It's Donald Trump with his cap, very popular, Make America Great Again. So again, even before the pandemics, the nationalist movement that actually, for example, Donald Trump, in many occasions, he said that actually I'm a nationalist. I'm not a globalist. Okay, he said that he is anti-globalist. Okay, so let's see this as very short clips from Al Jazeera that actually coronavirus or the pandemics triggers nationalisms. Okay, let's have a look. Please let me know if you cannot hear the sound.
As the world is slowly engulfed by the coronavirus, there's a growing realization the one that will emerge from it will be very different. Some see a chance for positive change.
It's also an unprecedented opportunity to come together as one against a common enemy.
But the pandemic also allows prejudices to thrive and multiply as fast as the virus itself.
Why do you keep calling this the Chinese virus?
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China, that's why.
Cases of anti-Chinese discrimination have been reported around the world. It stirred up old animosities between neighbors, such as South Korea and Japan, and given a boost to those calling for tighter borders.
The right-wing nationalist party in Europe, and not just in Europe, but all over the world, they have a better chance to gain more power.
Relations between countries are being severely tested, threatening to undo the dream of an integrated, globalized economy as the pandemic fundamentally changes the world of work. Special precautions being taken at the annual shareholders meeting for Samsung Electronics. Manufacturers hurt by disruption to long, complicated supply chains may look to bring production back to their home countries. Instead of business travel, more teleconferencing and working remotely from home. Expensive changes that rich countries will find it easier to make.
Even in Korea, we are the developed and pretty much advanced country, but majority of people should go to their workplace. Think about the developing country or the underdeveloped. They don't have any tools. So I think it's going to be widening the gap between poor and rich.
The post-coronavirus world may not only be more divided, but also more unequal. Rob McBride, Al Jazeera, Seoul.
Yeah. So, congratulations anyway to Sava. You got a prize from the committee for answering the questions about the cap. Okay, so in some cases, the pandemics brings people together to work together to solve this as a global problem. But in some cases, some countries, some leaders, they try to close their borders. They try to make some discriminative policy that actually against the idea. If the goal of the globalization is the free flow of the human and the goods, so actually this is like everybody's problem, not only certain countries. But for example, in some countries, they make like some immigration limitation based on ethnicity or based on the race. This is one of a very interesting analysis from Gideon Rahman. He's one of the senior journalists. Gideon Rahman said that actually 3 reasons. So after the pandemics, the world will totally change. It will not become fully globalized again like in the past. Okay. So first, the pandemic is demonstrating that in times of emergency, people fall back on the nation state. So they will rely more on their country instead of to the international institutions, because the nation state is the one which has financial, organizational, and emotional strength that global institutions lack. And the second one, the disease is revealing the fragility of global supply chain. For example, in some cases, some country, they in the past they do their production in developing countries. Developed countries, for example, they send their product to China. The China process it, and then in China send it back to the home countries who design it. But it's changing. Developed countries, maybe they continue to accept situations. They have to import most of their vital medical supplies, and sometimes they do their pressure to use their power in terms of, for example, international or foreign loans to some developing countries. Okay, if you don't give me this, I will stop the support for your country. So, see, nationalism has a very strong influence in the pandemic, and the pandemic is also reinforcing political trends that they were already potent before the crisis broke. Okay, in particular, the demand for more protectionism, localization of production, and tougher frontier controls. But in some cases, some country they tend to, they use, for example, some of the principles of berdikari, berdiri di atas kaki sendiri, stand on your own feet. That actually, in this case, it's not wrong for you to be independent economically. Okay, and yeah, maybe I'm not going to play this video, but this video actually, Europe as one, if you travel all around the Europe, I think you can use the train or maybe a local public international transportation from one country to another country, right? Which is, in the past, before the pandemics, students are really happy if they join program like ISEC, for example, or maybe some exchange program to Europe, because they can visit not only one country, but many countries. But the survey shows that actually more and more people during the pandemics agree that they need to close the borders, okay? And that's why some people, they decide to, instead of traveling from one place to the other, they do staycation. Okay, I'm not going to play this video, but I think you can find it on YouTube. Okay.
New reports from the.
Okay, and yeah, this is the one that I mentioned, that actually we are all nationalists now. That's what the ultra nationalist leader happily stated. Okay, and yeah, research also mentioned that global nationalism in times of COVID-19 pandemic is being challenged actually, and WHO also think that nationalism is also one of the things that hamper or it blocks the global institutions to work in dealing with the pandemics, because some country, they don't want to, for example, work together in the vaccination program, or they have their own policy related with the how to deal with the pandemics in their own country. I'm going to go a bit faster maybe, because but this is very interesting discourse which is formed by Donald Trump during his campaign and also during his presidential thing. This is, I think, let's have a look at this video.
And I told all of the European nations it's not fair. We have all these horrible trade imbalances. They take such advantage, they're not taking advantage anymore, folks. Under Republican leadership, America is winning again. America is respected again because we are putting America first. We're putting America first. It hasn't happened in a lot of decades. We're putting them first. We're taking care of ourselves for a change, folks. Thank you. I like that guy, but not that much. Not that much. But radical Democrats want to turn back the clock for the rule of corrupt, power-hungry globalists. You know what a globalist is, right? You know what a globalist is. A globalist is a person that wants the globe to do well, frankly, not caring about our country so much. And you know what? We can't have that. You know, they have a word. It sort of became old-fashioned. It's called a nationalist. And I say, really, we're not supposed to use that word. You know what I am? I'm a nationalist, okay? I'm a nationalist. National. Nothing. Use that word.
Okay.
And I
okay, so yeah, actually, if you pay attention, if you read about some research about American nationalism is a kind of a taboo word used by American politician, and Donald Trump is like one of the president who openly stated that he's a nationalist and he is against the globalists. Okay. It's not wrong, actually, if you want to put your national interest above all. I think every country will do that. But the problem is when it becomes discriminative when it comes to policy, and also when it comes to how you treat the citizen of the world. Okay, I'm going to skip this video and I will come to my next part of the presentations. Okay, okay, Nigel Farage, I think it's very important. He's the one who lead the Brexit, you know, of the Britain from the European Union, and the same also Modi as the Prime Minister of India, also very popular as one of the right-wing nationalists. He called himself Hindu nationalist. Okay, so if the pandemics, so most of the videos here are taken before the pandemics, but the discourse of anti-globalizations and also nationalism after the pandemic is actually still going on, you know, discriminations, racism. Okay, it is very interesting that, for example, this is a very new case. India, they think that they've been treated discriminatorily by the United Kingdoms. You know, when the Indian come to Britain, they need to do a mandatory 10-day quarantine, not people from other country, because they use their own vaccine and so on and so forth. So this issue of globalization, anti-globalizations becomes very, very you know, heating, and also become big debates in many occasions. This is if we come to the theory of banal nationalism from Billig. Actually, banal nationalism in the times of COVID-19 is going stronger.
Sorry, Mr. Herman.
Yes.
I have to warn you. We have 5 minutes left. Okay.
Okay. And the fact that actually more and more people want to get back to their own country instead of focusing on the globalizations. Maybe okay, in the popular cultures, maybe some of you, okay, I'm going to skip this video as well. But if you, okay, can somebody write the title of this movie if you know this movie? Okay, maybe the first one who get it correct will also get a prize or something, or maybe, I don't know. It depends on the committee. Or okay, this movie. Anybody knows what is this movie? The title of this movie? Okay, nobody. No, Dev. I think you should write it correctly, David. Contagious. No, Khadija. That's not the right title. Okay, the spelling should be correct as well. Okay, I'm waiting. Anybody? Can you write it? Yeah, Dija almost correct, but contamination, no, Mr. Pambudi, that's not the correct one. Yes, Dev, you got it correct at the second attempt. Okay, yes, the contagion. So the movie of the pandemics, if Dr. Alfi used the Smong, as the medium or the story to educate the people using the local wisdom in disaster reductions, disaster risk communications. Here, the popular movie become reference, for many people in seeing what is happening. Okay, for example, this is one of the research from the Universiti from 2020. In this research, actually, I think he researched about around 80 movies, about the pandemics, and he found that there are six main themes. The first one is dehumanizations. The second is biowarfare, and then failed leadership. Okay, many countries get into crisis after the pandemic. Stigmatization of the other. This is the othering. A very popular theory from Said, for example, Edward Said in Orientalism. Social class and disparities, and selfless physician. This is more like the patriotism of the health worker. And this is like the four main topics. And what's behind this, actually, in some cases, the pandemics movie is actually, in some cases, because it's popular culture, they want to get benefits, they get profits, by getting audience. They want to exploit our fear, because fear is the central theme in the pandemics movies. Okay, some movies, they always, sometimes they're not based on reality, and they could be based on the wrong informations, and which could be counterproductive, for example. But in some movie, for example, in Contagion and The Flu, for example, the second movie was The Flu from Korean movies. If you're a Korean movie lovers, they get audience to question the source of the fear and recognize the danger of the misinformation. It's because they have like a quite serious research when they make the story of the movie. For example, here, one of the dialogue mentioned that in order to become sick, you need first to come in contact with the disease. In order to get scared, all of you have to do is come in contact with a rumor. Spreading rumor is far more dangerous the disease. That's why most of the communication scholars say that what is more dangerous than the pandemic is the infodemics. And that's why fictions, sometimes it enables us to examine our fears and sources of information about the COVID-19, for example, but in the same time, it can be misleading too. And this is not new thing based on research from Slogan. It's actually fiction films about communicable disease or outbreak or pandemics has been there since 1918, since the Spanish flu time up to this time. And Slogan actually also include, this is genre analysis actually, but he said that pandemic is not a Hollywood, it's not only the privilege of Hollywood, but it's an international genre. You see, we have Korean movie, Italian movie, German movie also about pandemics. And he should say that AIDS movies should be included in the pandemics, and social sex or venereal disease films also should be counted as pandemic movies. Okay, and zombie movie too. This is very interesting because the zombie movie is actually one of the theme that the dehumanizations that making us seeing the people who are infected become like a zombie and they're not human anymore. And it's like in the army of the dead, for example, it's okay for us to bomb them with nuclear bomb, right? And this is stated by Phil Ho and also by Hoagland in their research. Okay, my time is very limited, but one of the key what that makes the pandemic movie successful in the mass, for example, is because, for example, the case of Contagion, for example, within 1 month of the first case of COVID-19, this is from movie from 2011 actually, but it was back among the iTunes top 10 most downloaded movies. And many may remember the development of successful vaccine at the end of the movie. Perhaps as we collectively enter an uncertain future brought by COVID-19, some of these films help us share not only a moment of communal reminiscence, but also hope as well. So we see the pandemic's movies become the reference, but sometimes it's misleading. But in some cases, because we are looking for hopes, like in this movie, it happens. Maybe in the real life, it will happen too. This is my own research that actually the topic of nationalisms or maybe patriotism in movies has been there. And some of them are talking about a pandemic, for example, and disaster, like The Day After Tomorrow and so on and so forth. And this is very interesting that I found these two kind of nationalism, exclusive and inclusive. Exclusive is more the one discriminative, it's more xenophobic, while the inclusive one is more cosmopolitan, it's more humanitarian actually. And it happens in both in Indonesian culture and also in American culture. Okay, so to conclude my presentation, I'll say that pandemics could become a threat to globalizations, and nationalism can grow stronger in the time of the pandemics. And popularity of outbreak or pandemic movie become, actually, it's also the strategy of discursive formation. People want to build some discourse like the othering, or maybe to see the selflessness of the medical worker, for example. But in the same time, they can also sell fears and exploit the uncertainty. But in the same time, they can also offer promises. Okay, but because fiction can use their creativity privilege, they can twist the reality. But a more scientific based fiction actually will help the community better understand the pandemic. So that's why your ability to analyze a movie or to do critical thinking when you watch a movie can help you to not to be misguided by the popular culture. And just want to remind you, I think Dr. Amy also remind us in the beginning that Islam can contribute a lot and provide solutions to the problem of the disaster, including pandemics. But the Holy Quran say that actually never can anything befall us save what Allah has decreed. He's our Lord Supreme, and in Allah let the believers place their trust. We don't need to worry too much. And I think if don't watch too much zombie movies and believe that, okay, we will be like the zombies. There will be ruined cities, there will be destruction, and there will be chaos here and there. But actually, we need to believe that actually we need to, return all the problems to our Creator, which is God. And in this case, don't let the media distort you and think, don't believe everything that you watch in popular movies, for example. Okay, I think that's all my presentation. I hope you enjoy my presentation and looking forward for the discussion. Thank you, Mas Oli.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Herman Felani, for a beautiful presentation. Now we invite our third speaker, Dr. Ruzinoor, for Skimpa, University Utara, Malaysia. He will present his bright idea about how the media technology like 3D simulation could be used as an instrument to help humans in facing the flood disaster. Dr. Ruzinoor, time is yours.
Okay, thank you to the moderator. So this is my turn. Let me try to share my slide. Is it possible or not? Yeah. Can you see my slide?
Yes, it's working.
Yes.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, thank you very much to Universitas Indonesia for and also the committee for inviting me to this annual workshop on globalization. I think this is the first time I attend this as a speakers and so for this program. So the Honorable Dr. Amy Zulaifa, Deputy Deans of Religions and Student Affairs, the respected speakers, Dr. Alfi, Dr. Herman, and all of the students. It's very interesting to hear the topics that the two speakers already speaks on. Dr. Alfi speaks on disaster risk communication, and just now Dr. Herman talking about the pandemic and nationalisms. So my topics, I think, a little bit different than Dr. Alfi and also Dr. Herman. I will talk about my project that I get a grant, a research grant from our government, which is we did it on 3D simulation for flood evacuations. This is the last, I think we did it last 3 years before. So my name is Ruzinoor. Actually, I'm from School of Creative Industry Management and Performing Arts, Universiti Utara, Malaysia. So before I begin my talk, I think let me introduce a little bit about our UUM and also my school. Actually, I'm from, as I mentioned just now, this is our school, is School of Creative Industry Management. Actually, we have a bachelor in creative industry management and performing arts, and we have 4 majoring, which is films, music, animation, and also interactive media. And this is our beautiful campus of Universiti Utara, Malaysia. I think a little bit small. I think you can see the scenery of Universiti Utara, Malaysia. So this is our great hall. Okay, actually, before I go further, actually my background, actually, most of the works that I did is more on technology, which related to Industrial Revolution 4.0. Most of the research and the product, right now, I'm more focusing on creating a games for the globalization, creating a games, creating apps, creating products on augmented reality. Just now, we are in the working of preparing the AR combo photo for one of the polytechnics in Malaysia for using technology to you know that during this pandemics, the convocation cannot be held, so that's why they will do the first convocation online. So by using the technology, using the AR photo convo, the student have able to snap the photo with their ropes. That's one of the possible things that my project I do. So my background is on virtual reality and also augmented reality. So this project is related to 3D simulation. It's a kind of virtual reality actually. And this is the agenda of my talk. Hopefully I can finish it in 30 minutes. And inshallah, I think I can finish it by 30 minutes. Actually, most of my slide, actually, I will show all of the project, most of the video that I did. You can see after this also. I will start with introductions, objective related works, and what is the psychological effects on the flood victims. And I will go for what kind of technology that I used to create a 3D flood simulation, and what kind of evaluation that we did, and I will edit with the conclusions. Okay, before I move further, as we know that flood, as mentioned by Dr. Amy also, about the disaster. So my topic is related to disaster, which is related to flood actually. I think most of us have know about the floods, and when we're talking about the flood, actually it's very significant to me, because before this, I live in my village. Actually, every 5 years at the end of the year, normally in December, I will face the flood actually. And you can imagine that I can feel that what is the emotion and feelings of when you have experience in the flooding, you know, when we have the heavy rain, for example, more than 1 hour, we know that if it's within 5 years, something like that, the flood will be occurs in my place. So We need to prepare, we need to do everything. So in order to handle that kind of situation, that's why in my project, actually we developed a 3D flood simulation. We want to see the psychological effect and also into the behavior of the flood victim during the floodings actually. So you can see that this is the latest news from Johor, Pahang, Kedah, which involved in floods. This is in Penang, just happened on 18 August. This is a little bit statistic flood in Malaysia. You can see that the period of maximum flood in 2009 in all the state in Malaysia, which stated that Sarawak have many flood occurrence for about 20 the period of in 20 days and something like that. It's very long this period. They're facing the floods. And also this is the number of frequency flooding in 2019 in all the states in Malaysia. So Sarawak also stated is the highest on 118. And this is also the flood in Japan, in Bangladesh, so I want to try to share with you, this is the floods that's occurred in China on 29 August. Can you hear the sound?
Yes, yes.
接到通知过后，那边水上来过后，我们就把那个路上的车子，我们警戒也封了过后，不允许车子上去。然后那边所有有小车能够挑头的，我们都劝他回去挑。
Okay, I would like to ask all the participant students, you can write it in the chat. What do you feel when you are seeing or involved in this kind of situations during the flood? What do you feel? If you look like water rising, a lot of things being damaged, what do you feel? Scared? Dr. Herman mentioned scared. What else? What kind of feelings or emotion, something like that? Okay, I think a lot of things that we think during the flood. If you ever have experienced the flood, it's very scared actually during the floods. That's why sorry. Okay, I will continue. This is the flood in Indonesia. Okay, this happened on 5th April 2021. Flood affect thousands in Borneo, 2 kills in East and Nusa Tenggara, more than 75 people deaths in Indonesia, Timor-Leste floods. And this is a little bit statistic from Statista regarding number of floods that have occurred in Indonesia from 2016 to 2020. We can see that in 2020, it's about 1,080 floods that occurred in Indonesia. There's got a lot of flood. That means this is one of the natural disaster that we face all of the time in Malaysia, Indonesia, and all of places in the world actually. So this is global deaths from natural disaster and etc. Okay. Okay, actually, that is just I want to start with something regarding flooding. So, actually, our works, our research, our project is related to crowd simulation. Actually, we want to simulate the crowd. That's why we choose flooding as one of the situation as a crowd simulation that we need to simulate the environment of floodings and the avatar inside the environment, how it will react to the simulation when it's a flooding occurs. So crowd simulation is a process of simulating the movement of a large number of entities. Actually. And while we simulating the crowd, observe the human behavior and interactions that are taken into account to replicate the collective behavior. That's what we want to see, the behavior of the flood victim during the flood actually. Actually, many developer training simulator and game environments are beginning to envision a new era where psychosocial and also psychological model could be integrated to enhance the environment simulation of the human agent. So we create a 3D avatar inside as an agent to interact with the 3D simulation. Okay, the objective of my research or my project is actually to develop 3D flood simulation, which combine the crowd simulation as mentioned with the human behavior during the flooding. This is the objective of my project, my 3D flood simulation. Actually, this is some of the related works that did by the previous researchers on the crowd simulation. For example, Kim, Guy, Monaco, and Lin 2005 have interactive simulation of dynamic crowd behavior using the general adaptation syndrome theory. So from their work, that they prove that by using the psychological theory of GAS or generalized adaptation syndrome, that simulates the dynamic behavior of the crowd. I will show the example here. One of the things that they did in the project regarding the crowd simulation, everybody know that this is the Kaabah. This is Tawaf when our Muslim do the Hajj, perform the Hajj. We perform the Tawaf. I will show you the example of this is the real video, and this is the simulation. How they simulates about 35,000 virtual agents inside the environment. How they react each other when they're trying to go for the near the black stone. You can see that. This is Q. From here, you can imagine if you feel if you are in this situation, how do you feel? It's very crowded and difficult to imagine. So this is how they simulate it by using the crowd simulation. I see without physical interaction, this is their methods. A little bit different. Okay, I don't want to talk more about this. This is example. Okay, in terms of psychological effects on the flood victim, there are 4 stages that involved during a flood disaster. When floods disaster occurs, what kind of psychological help that involved to the floods victim? For example, there will be stress, anxiety, fainting, panic attacks, and depression. What happened after the flood? PSTD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is a severe anxiety disorder that can develop after they're exposed to the floods and to any event. So like example for the flood that can result in psychological trauma. There will be trauma actually. When you're involved in the flood, there will be trauma. For example, the effect is that, for example, for me, when you see that the stress, the level of stress and anxiety of the flood victim will increase during the change of weather. For example, as mentioned before, for example, in my place, if the raining is more than heavy, more than 1 hour, we know that the flood will be occurred in our place. And that's the effect. It will be phobia or something traumatic to the flood victim, actually. Okay, this is kind of the psychological effects: stress, anxiety, fainting, panic attacks, imaging, and depressions. Okay, this is the attribute of the flood victim. Based on our model, actually, we trigger the event influence on when the psychological effect is related to cognitions, emotion, and also the behavior. There's a relation on psychological effect to these 3 attributes actually to the flood victim. And this is the conceptual model that we developed for this project. actually behind of this, actually we developed the algorithm to see the psychological effect of the crowd simulation. So you can see from here that the cognition, for example, is it going to flood again? Like for example, there is nothing that I can do. This is cognition, example of the cognition. Why must happen to me? Why is a project happen to me? Why is not happen to other places? Why is it always happening in my place? For example, in my place, actually, now the flood is not occurs anymore because our government have to reconstruct a new river, make it river bigger and also deeper. So the problem of flood really solved in my place. So based on these three attributes, emotion, cognition, and also behavior, we developed a 3D stressor. 3D stressor is where we develop the environment of flood event in the simulated object, which can implement in a virtual agent model, which have the cognition, as I mentioned, cognition, emotion, and also behavior attribute of the flood victim. The result of this transformation to find out how the virtual agent respond under stress event is in the flood. We use as flood as an environment as a conceptual model of crowd during the flood based on psychological effects. So based on this model, we developed, this is the interesting part, or develop a 3D flood simulation. So actually, if you look at most of my product, actually, I'm using a game engine to develop most of my product in virtual reality, augmented reality. So this 3D simulation also we're using a game engine, which is Unity 3D. It's a very famous platform for developing the products because it's multiple platform. Is when you develop by using Unity, it can be run on multiple platform. So from development, we start with 3D modeler, combined with a game engine, and we develop the 3D simulation. And this is the flowchart of the process of the developments. We start modeling the houses, the furnitures, and everything, and texture, all of the object like house and furniture. And then from the 3D modeler, we import it inside the 3D game engine, which is Unity. We create the environments, train with a flat environments, import the 3D modeler, we import the character, and also inside that environment, we also insert animated character, a different type of character, drawn, run, evacuate. So there are three different characters. I can show you in the video after this. And we simulate the environment of flood by simulating the water level rising and draining, and then complete with the 3D flood simulation. Okay, this is the process missions, modeling the houses using the 3D modeler, 3D Studio Max. And this is the 3D game engine environments inside the Unity. It's involved two houses here and also the hilly area around the environments. Okay. And this is the interface, and this is the 3D flood simulation environments. This is, we generate the simulation of raining and water rising. I will show inside the video. And for the water rising situation, we're using this equation to generate the water rising based on this equation for water risings. And this is scenario. We simulate the character, the scenario of avatar. We simulate it when it's a flood happens, occurs inside the environments. The avatar or the animate character inside the environment will try to gather and try to evacuate from their houses. Sometimes they will go to one places which is at the backs of the hilly area. And during that time also, when the avatar, the water rising and hit their feet, their foots, and they will start running. This is we develop the visual inside the 3D simulation. So this is the scenario of avatar. Is simulating the user behavior when the water rising in the level of chest, the avatar will be drowned. something like that. So what happened when when you feel in that situation and what do you feel? What is your reaction? Avatar run to the safe place, as I mentioned before. Okay, this is interesting. This is the real, not the real. We imitated the environment of the flood. You can see this is the 3D simulation for flood. 3D flood simulation for evacuations. So. Okay, this is 3D flood simulation that we developed to imitate the real environments. You can see the different situation inside the floods. And based on this, we conduct an evaluation on 13 participants to see, to observe based on lab environments. Environments that being observed. The video we record during the connecting of their observation and how they interact with the 3D flood simulation. And based on that video, we differentiate 14 types of behavioral patterns that found from the observations, which is from number 1 until number 14. You can see from the video that some of them try to attempt to enter the house. Some of them getting far away from the houses. Some of them at hill, watching from the hill what is the situation of the floodings. Some of them went back down to the houses at hill and keep walking to the higher place. Watch the running avatar, then they start running. Notice the avatar running to the hill and follow that person and start moving. Stop at the higher place in the middle of the village and looking around. Ideal position, they don't know what to do, and watch the drone avatar. Ideal position also, and looking around, they don't know what to do, and roaming, looking around, regroup with victim and reach to the top of the hill. This is the sample, one of the experiment that the real users interact with this simulation. You can see that they're trying to enter the house. They think the house is the safest place to go during the floods. And they're looking at the avatar then, and the water keep rising. They're trying to enter the other houses, but cannot. And they try to look around. And they need to find the safest place. The safest place is at the hill. Okay, I think that's it. This is the users 1. This is users 2. I don't want to show users 2. This is user 3. And from this evaluation, based on that 14 behavior, we divide it into behavior patterns at 10 seconds, at 60 seconds, at 10 seconds, and also 180 seconds. So the difference is you can see that at 1 second, majority tends to roaming around, and the environment caused that they didn't know what kind of reaction that they need to perform. This is maybe due to a situation where the level of the water still not in the critical situation. You look at the video, the water is not rising too much, so they think it's safe, they're just roaming around. But at 60 seconds, majority still tends to roaming around. But now the environment, some of them trying to enter the house, some have also already climbed to the hill to find a safer place. This is at 60 seconds. And that at 110 seconds, they stop at one position in idle mode and looking around. This is maybe due to the crowd situation that this time the water level is increased and the chaotic situation is already occurs during the floods. That's why they stop at one position and in idle and looking around. And last behavior pattern at 180 seconds, majority already climbed the hill to the top area for the safer place. So they know that the most safer place is they need to go to the hill, because the water is not rising until the top of the hill. So based on this, we can conclude that the higher percentage of the behavior patterns during the flood was a bad behavior. We differentiate between bad, moderate, and goods. And this is maybe due to they did not have any experience during the floods. Then they didn't know what action need to be taken, where some of them seem just roaming around and did not do anything to save their life. And the second highest percentage is behavioral was a goods. This is good for 51%. This situation maybe happen because they already have the experience during the flood and they know already what action need to be taken. It seems that they did not panic with the crowd situation and try to go to the to save their life by finding the higher place and to keep safe from the floods. And last, the lowest percentage is behavior during the flood was a moderate, which is 23%. This may be due to they already have the info about the action need to be taken during the flood. It seems that the behavior is not too panicked because majority of them reach at the safer place either at the top of the hill or regroup with other victims. I think I'm running out of time. So I want to conclude that based on what I present just now, it describes the development of an application for simulating crowd simulation for flood evacuations in 3D environments. And it could be used as a training tool for volunteer and also emergency personnel, as well as tool for planning and testing the design for evacuation center. This can be used also in Indonesia and in other places also this transmission. I will share with you my 3D application at the end. The feature is to extend this project or research by conducting user studies and also VR experiment, maturity experiment with the real terrain. Actually, other projects that I did is actually I'm involved on visualization of the landscape or terrain. So this can be the future of this project. I will end this. I show this. So this is the things that we can develop further for giving. Just now the floods simulation that I did, I'll be using not the real data, not the real terrain. So using this, actually I'm using the real terrain data. We can combine this to get real terrain inside the real environment, and also we can do the plannings, analysis. This is the thing I can relate it to the globalization. During the planning, when they're using this kind of system, they can communicate. Either they are not, they are far away in other places, even though in other country, then they can communicate on the plannings. So by using this, you can see that you can plan where you want to develop the houses, where you want to put put the plant, the tree, and etc. in the environments that you create. Okay, I think sorry, this is last. So I will share with you. So all the students and all of the speakers can go to these links, and you can have a 3D flat simulation from me, and you can try by yourself. That's it, I think, from me. Thank you very much for listening. Hopefully that benefit all of you. So I can be contact with this email. Thank you very much. Pass it back to you, Holly.
Thank you, Dr. Ruzinoor, for amazing presentation. Applause for all speakers we have. Ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the question and answer session. Actually, we have only about 15 or 20 minutes for Q&A session. So please make your inquiry as efficient as possible. Please raise hand and switch on your speaker and camera to ask directly to the speaker. Or I think we could also ask via chat room. Don't forget to introduce yourself and mention who is speakers you want to ask. I think we also provide a beautiful merchandise or door prize for anyone who participate in Q&A session. Is it, Maida?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
For those who want to ask, we prepared the merchandise of our department. So guys, please do join. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone? Okay, from Gianni, don't forget to fill out the attendance form, everyone. Okay. This is for from Dr. Ruzinoor. The link is in our chat room. Okay. Okay. Okay, Dr. Herman.
Okay, maybe Alfi first, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
To be honest, I'm really interested with the research from Dr. Alfi and Dr. Ruzinoor.
Okay.
I mean, using the local wisdom is I think is one of the great way, to educate the people that actually we live in a place where, the nature have the hazard. But I want to ask Dr. Alfi, I mean, do you think that it's possible for, because the cultural aspect sometimes it only works in one place, what other people, they don't believe it because it's not that what they hear from their childhood time. So maybe my question that's for Dr. Alfi, and I'm thinking, is it possible also to develop this kind of strategy? I mean, the local wisdom in other area in Indonesia, and I think we share it also with Malaysia. And to Dr. Ruzinoor, I mean, when you very interesting with the technology that you develop, I want to know if, I mean, when you design the apps or the augmented reality, do you also use the local wisdom like what Dr. Alfi and the team did in Kuala? Yeah, that's my question. Sorry, Mas Oli. I'm interested to all of the topics from our two other speakers. Thank you.
Okay, it's okay. Please, Dr. Alfi.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Herman, for the questions. Yeah, one of the characteristics of indigenous knowledge is should be noted by us. It's maybe local. Yeah, it's practiced in local, so which means that could probably not applicable to another context of culture. But I think in general, still we can consider some of general patterns of general lessons that could be extracted from that. So the local context is really important when we see about local indigenous knowledge, especially in the context of Simulu Islands. For example, in Simulu Islands, people they try to believe that the tsunami will occur first by firstly with a big earthquake, and after followed by the tsunami. But this is very different if we can see in another places, especially after the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, the countries who far away from the epicenter, for example, in Sri Lanka and Africa, Africa countries, they did not feel any earthquake, but the tsunami reached them. So this is also should be noted by us. So, but I think we still can extract some of ideas, some of the similar ideas for disaster reduction. And also we discuss about what promoted by some of disaster risk reduction practices about how to save our lives when during the earthquake, for examples. You should you should go to under the table, in the context of Indonesia and other countries. I think that's not not suitable. But in Japan, it's okay because they construct their buildings, the housings based on the structural adapt with the seismic or earthquake. But in Indonesia, you should go out and try to save your life. So don't waste your times on the stay yourself under the tables. So this is what happened in the Nepal, I think, because many teachers taught to the students you should go to the under the table, but when the big earthquake, I forgot the years of the earthquake. They found many students under dead under the tables because the building is not quite strong for this kind of. So this is should be noted, and I think this is also what I want to ask for Dr. Herman as well, since you also mentioned about about the globalizations and also how we try to interact with the different culture. The modern culture. As I mentioned in my presentations about the changes of situation, especially in the Simulu Islands, because these islands is not isolated. We experienced the long-time conflict between Free Aceh movement who want to spread Aceh as a new independent country with the Indonesian military for more over 30 years. So which meant that at the time we were very isolated from outsiders. But now, after the tsunami, both of the parties agreed to stop the conflict, and then Simulu Islands is not yet isolated from the outside. So which meant, the youngest persons, the youngest group in Simulu Island also affected by technology. For example, in 2006, I saw the farewell speech of Obama in Simulu Islands directly from there. So which means that Simulu Island can access any information from outside. So the new generation will be changed. So this is also one of the crazy for me. Maybe there will be a global culture that change our behavior. We try to translate what already did by our ancestors. So I think and also movie change people. How is this? And also okay, let me please let me also take this time to also ask Dr. Ruzinoor. Ruzinoor, actually our center, Tsunami and Disaster Mitigation Research Center, also have another cluster related to the technology. Then we did some of the simulations, especially for the tsunami, how we try to put it and predict the people movement during the tsunami, and then we now get the data where the places, what we call it bottleneck, when the scenario, the tsunami occur, and then many people move in the same time. So we try to identify, and I think it's really is it applicable for your simulation for another hazards, not only for flood or that. So this is also one of the curiosity that I want to know more detail about your research related for the 3D simulations. That's all. Thank you, Dr. Holly. And I hope Dr. Herman can answer your questions. Thank you.
Okay, please, Mr. Herman or Dr. Ruzinoor.
Yeah, before going to Dr. Ruzinoor, I will say that Dr. Rafil, maybe we need to adjust the strategy, because now, in the past we tell, you told the story of Smong after Salat Maghrib in Surau, or in Masjid, right? But maybe now we should take it into, using the technology, could be using, I don't know, maybe content of the social media, maybe we spread the Smong using the content of social media, maybe using the TikTok or using short movies or films. But I think strategies should be adjusted. And I think also to answer Mr. Pambudi's questions, that actually, globality and locality can work together, because we have the term locality, right? So I think using the local wisdom could be amplified using the global technology that we have, especially with the IT, just like what Dr. Ruzinoor did. So I will say that it's not something to be contrasted, but it's something to be harmonized, to be integrated to support each other. Thank you, Dr. Alfi. That's my response. Mas Oli, please.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Herman. Please, Dr. Ruzinoor.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. How can I answer the question first off, the question I think from Dr. Alfi just now, did I use a local wisdom or something like that? As I mentioned before in the last part of the video that I show you, that as the thing that I developed is one of the platform which that can, I think both of the answer I can answer Dr. Herman and also Dr. Alfi. So based on that system, actually, we can get the real location or look at the local data, the real, because in that system, I integrates all of the location based on something geographic information system. So inside that environments, actually the avatar or the people inside the environment is actually a step on the real location in the real life places actually on that system. So by using that, actually we can imitate or we can create the environments, or you put it all the houses or the places at the real situations, and we can simulate it inside that environment, the floodings or either the tsunami or other things inside the 3D environment. And also other than that, by using that the 3D train visualization, also we can do the analysis of the train visualization. So inside that environments, see, that's why I'm utilize the local expertise actually. That system I'm actually developed by my student actually in that project. So I utilize all the local system by using the latest technology. We are using a Unity 3D game engine. So based on that system, actually I can customize to any of other environment actually from that system. Can simulate it. That is my answer. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Herman, do you have a question to Dr. Ruzinoor? Yes, no? No?
Yeah, thank you, Master. I already stated my questions in the beginning. It's about the locality, the technology.
Okay.
You're muted, Mas Holly. And
okay.
A question from Mr. Pambudi.
Mr. Pambudi, yeah. Based on Mr. Alfi presentation, Mr. Pambudi asked about, sometimes we now know there's the modernization, globality kills the locality, especially the culture of DRR of Spong, and especially the folklore and local DRR in many regions. Do we still need locality in the middle of the modern technology era that kills them? Or do we still need modernity? This question to all speakers. Mr. Alfi?
Yeah, thank you for Dr. Pambudi. Yeah, but do we need still local practices or local knowledge for disaster action in the modern situation, just like right now that the technology influence many aspects of our lives? So I think that in the context of Indonesia, we still need this kind of local knowledge, and also we could not ignore about the influences of technology because the new generations will influence with the technology so much, so we can ignore about that. So I think how we try to adapt with that kind of situations. What we define as our culture is really important. Yeah. For example, what happened in Japan. Japan now they try to develop and try to everything with the knowledge, everything with design, everything with the technology. But we have to consider about the culture as well. What I found from the Hokkaido people, Hokkaido people who are living in the northern part of island Japan's, this thing is them as different with the Japanese people who are living in the main islands in Japan, just like in Honshu Islands, the big islands, the Tokyo, they're different. And then because they have their own culture, okay, this is also I have to consider a new and some of generation I found that they try to encourage the government to also consider about their identity, the culture, and it's very difficult to find anything related to their culture. And I get the information from one of colleagues from Japan that they have now the museums to mention about the Ainu culture related to the Hokkaido who are living in the northern part of Japan. So so maybe we think in the context we don't need anything about what already our ancestors left for us. What ancestors already transmitted for us as a culture. And another important thing that I think from the Japanese culture after the 2011 big earthquake and tsunami in the northern part in Tohoku area, I visited some of the affected area in Japan and tried to interview some of the local people, especially how they feel after the reconstruction and rehabilitation process of the 2011 tsunami. I'm shocked, because they told me about something that I never imagined, especially about the culture. Since I very concentrated in the culture's issues, especially after the big mega disaster. They told me that since the recovery process, the Japanese government tried to build the seawalls, for more than 13 meters, and then changes the landscape of the area affected or changes so many things. So the local people could not recognize their memories because the memories they changed totally. And some of them told me, I'm very sad because I could not I could not see directly the sea, from my side. So I think that's also really important. It's different what happened after 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami when our government tried to relocate the local people far from the affected area, and then our local people come back again to the same place because they told to the government that we was born here and we'll die here. So it's a little bit changed, but I think in the context of local people, Indonesians, it can release the tensions, release the attach with the landscape. so I think that also we have to consider about situations, and as consequences of the regulations that implements by the Japanese government, I found many Japanese people who affected by the 2011 tsunami could not deal with their loss. Yeah, they still something left behind that not finished yet. Maybe the increasing of PTSD, yeah, post-traumatic syndrome disorder caused by the natural by the disaster. It's probably increased years by years. Yeah, that's maybe. Thank you, Mas Wali.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rafi. Dr. Ruzinoor, are you ready to answer? Because you are the one who work in the field of technology. Okay.
How can I answer this? This is very interesting question. I think I want to answer like this. Actually, we still need modernity, or I mean the technology. For example, actually in Indonesia and Malaysia, for example, we can see that what is the locality, for example, the traditionals, the equipments, the things that we create. If you know that in Indonesia, I don't know, you have a Daiso or something like that, Daiso in Indonesia, which is all the product from the Japanese products. So that's one of the things that here, actually, I'm working also on consultation for our international commercialization center. One of the things that we are trying to use the technology or something that we can use a technology or create something we call the traditional equipment from all the village. I think almost the village, something they have some things new, something creation that in order they want to save, they want to keep, I mean, they want to solve some things. They should have something product or something like that. But by using that product, is a local product, we can use the technology, helps them with the modernity to make is a product that will be available for the market or something like that. That's why Japanese Daiso, most of the products they patent it and they produce it commercially with a mass production and go all over the world. So that's one of the thing that we can utilize the modernity from the locality for in this kind of situation. And one other thing is that I'm interested on Dr. Alfi last slide. Is talking about most of our expertise, all the local people who are expertise on some things, they are gone already. So some of them, they didn't have the young people who want to learn about something, the skill. I mean, the very high skill from them. That's the things that we can use the technology to help these local people or something, all the people in Indonesia, in Malaysia, using the technology for example, virtual reality, augmented reality, all of other technology, we can use that technology to build some things that everybody can learn their skill. So that is the thing that even the modernity, but we still have a locality that we need to keep it in order to our globalization. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ruzinoor. Dr. Herman, any
Yeah,
additional?
allow me to share my screen a little bit to give example to Mas Pambudi, for example. This is the one of the example where locality and technology meets, and they create like hybrid culture for the betterment of the community in dealing with the disaster. For example, this is one of the activity of the anthropology Gadjah Mada University. They use local culture. They call it Laura Sirap Pagebluk. It's a kind of a way culturally they invite people to make like a poetry and also singing musically and visually in order to help the people to deal with the pandemics, they deal with the loneliness and so on and so forth. So I think this is a very good example where you can see that actually locality and technology and the new media can be used to help people to deal with this disaster. And I want to come also to the question from Miss Nafisa, that she said that actually how to face the problem, you know, when we become more and more, have a narrow perspective of nationalism. We just think about our country, ourselves. We don't care about people and in other place. So I will say that actually pandemics should be seen also as you know, as humanity problems, you know, and different. Like for example, in tsunami, we can relate and connect. You know, we cry when we see people, you know, are affected by the tsunami. We are far away and we are not affected by the tsunami, but we can relate. But the pandemic is different because here there is the situation where people need to isolate, to lock down, you know, to sometimes it becomes a kind of a xenophobic and also discriminative attitude. For example, Donald Trump used the term Chinese virus. Actually, the virus has no ethnicity. So, I mean, we need to be critical when we read, when we watch popular culture, like movies, for example, Nafisa and other friends. Maybe you need to be critical that actually some perspective, like especially the zombifications of the people who are affected by a virus, for example, is a strategy of othering people, actually, to see that you know, people who are affected by a certain disease is dehumanized, actually. So I think like some movie like The Flu, for example, provides another perspective. What if the person who is affected is your child, your little daughter? You know, maybe watch that movie. So I think being critical in seeing what is the discourse being formed in the popular culture, especially in movies, should be done by us, as you know, especially you as the communications student, for example. You need to be critical when you see this. What's behind this? Who produced this? What's their goal, actually? So I think humanity should come first, and I think everyone is the same. And in the situation of disaster, I think people from all background will be affected, not only people with a certain status, you know, or citizenship. Yeah, that's my response for Nafisa's questions, Mas Oli.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Herman. There is a last question from Arul Sulaiman. Please switch on your camera and microphone so you can directly to ask Mr. Ruzinoor. Please, Arul. Okay. Could you please, Arul?
The question is there already, I think.
Okay, it's okay.
So Cyrus want to speak?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, his question is about the rescue and self-production from the floodings, and can we still do self-rescue like a video that I showed when a sudden flood occurs, and how do we save pregnant women or children when a flood occurs? For the timing in my flood simulation, I didn't do that yet for the self-protection. But what we do is, as I mentioned, is the behavior during the flood. It's mean how they want to go to the safest place based on their situations, like women, children, or it can be anybody just now. But I think I can simulate that kind of situation to make a self-production for the avatar for the features of my development. Thank you for your question, Mr. Arul.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ruzinoor. I think there is one question from Sultan Milano, Dr. Herman.
Thank you, Mr. So I will say that from the geopolitical perspective, that actually, you know, what is produced by the discourse produced by media, for example, in this case, popular culture, and what is produced by politician could be two different things, you know. And in the terms of, I think America and China are two superpower that actually they're in the contestation of gaining global dominance. Actually, if you watch some movies, for example, in like the Independence Days 2, or maybe in some disaster movie like the day after tomorrow, or maybe 2012, you see that actually in the end of the movie, there will be part where China and America, they are developing technology to save peoples, especially people from their own country, but they quote unquote also provide some slots for people from the other nationalities. I think I will say that actually they tend to create to form a discourse that actually we do care about humanity, we do care about the global problems, but we're the one who developed the technology, we're the one who actually working hard doing our homework. So actually if you want to be part of the safe community, you need to work harder or buy our technology. So I will say I think it's something natural and something, I don't know, in IR perspective, maybe it's something realistic perspective that countries will always tend to act on behalf of their own national interest. But again, I think we should produce more and more content or maybe message in the media that actually disaster is actually humanity problems, and in that situation we should work hand in hand. It's not only big countries trying to save their own people, but you need to care also what about the people there with the less developed technology and also limited national budget to help the people. So in the end, I will say that the question of in the time of disaster or pandemics, it will show the true colors of not only people but also a nation. That's my response, Mas Ali.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Herman. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it seems that the time for the Q&A session is up. Then we finally come to the end of this session, conclusion. As a moderator, I apologize because honestly, I could not conclude the clarity and the brilliant idea from our speakers for this session. It is too hard for me. So I would like to hear the closing statement from each speaker as the conclusion. It will begin from Dr. Alfi, then turn to other speakers. Please, Dr. Alfi.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult to make a close statement, but I think for every problems that we are facing now, we should also have to include everything. It's not only one perspective, but also multidisciplinary perspective should be noted. So when we see the problems, we should include many things, inclusive, not only based on the government perspective, but also local perspective should be also considered for what should we do for better future. And that's, I think, the most important things. Thank you, Dr. Herman.
Please, Dr. Herman.
Mas Ali, if it is allowed, I want to give my opportunity to Mas Muzain because he's here and he's the one also concerned a lot with the disaster. Maybe if he can say 1 or 2 words, I'll be very happy. If he's around. Okay. I just want to sum up by saying that actually, when we see the problem of disaster and we reflect back what is produced, the discourse produced in the media, especially in popular culture, we have to know that actually we always see it critically that this is a problem of humanity. This is not a problem of 1 or 2 countries, and it has no connection with religion, ethnicity, nationality, and so on and so forth. So I think we should be critical when we don't be hegemonized by what is produced by the media or by the maybe politicians too. And I think in this case, I think culture could be used to promote a good message and also optimism instead of spreading fear and also pessimisms. Yeah, that's all, Mas Ali.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Herman. Please, Dr. Ruzinoor.
Okay, how to conclude. So everything I think that we discuss about the locality and everything. I mean, whatever technology that we use, we try to create, we still need to keep maintain all our local. I mean, the culture. In whatever technology, the culture is the first. Even though we have a new technology, something like that, we need to take care to still maintain, utilize this our own culture, even in Indonesia, in Malaysia, or something like that. For the globalizations. Thank you. Like China, like Japan, they keep it like that. Even though they are moderns, but they still keeps their locality, their cultures. Has been in Japan for 3 months. You can see that most of the things, even though they have the latest technology, they keep creating something which make it longer lasting, something. All the things that they create, they maintain, keep it for a long time for their locality use. They still maintain some of the village still there in Japan, so that they still maintain the culture. But they're in a modern era, but they still keep maintain the culture. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ruzinoor. I'd like to thank to our speaker for the brilliant presentation and all the participants who sit patiently to enjoy this afternoon discussion. Applause for the speaker and for you all the participants. Forgive me for the mistakes which I made during this session. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I would like to return the control of this workshop back to the host, Syiah. Yes, thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Mr. Holly, for guiding our workshop for today. So I would like to say thank you for all of the speakers for today, which is Dr. Alfi, Dr. Ruzinoor, and also Dr. Herman. And also for Unicoms TV for helping to streaming our workshop for today. I hope for all of the participants can get the new insights regarding to the globalization, especially in this tutorial area. Other than that, I would like to say sorry also if there was a word error that occurred during this workshop. And lastly, I would like to congratulate for all of the participants who has been actively asking for some of the question in this workshop. And I think that's all. Thank you for all of the participation and attention for today. See you on the next workshop. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Alfi, Dr.
Thank you.
Herman, Dr. Ruzinoor. Sehat
Thank
semua.
you, everyone.
Thank you for the participants.
Yeah.
Gianni, what about the prize for the people who ask question and comment? We promised, I think. I promised too.
Yes, from the note that we have already taken, there are about 7 participants who got the giveaway, isn't it?
Yes, right.
Right.
Right. We have 7 here.
Yes.
Wait, I get.
There are Shafa.
Yeah, Shafa, Gladia, Devita. Uja Herman also, you got it?
No, not me. Not me. I'll pass it to the student or maybe to Dr. Ruzinoor or Dr. Alfi.
Yeah. And Mas Pampam, also we have Nafisa, Arul, and Sultan Milano. Thank you for all your attention and participation. We hope that we can send it soon to your addresses. Thank you so much. Happy weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Terima kasih, Dr. Alfi.
Terima kasih, Dr. Alfi.
Thank you, Dr. Alfi, Dr. Ruzinoor, Mas Ali, and everyone.